Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Test Tube Plus today. I'm Trace. This is episode 5 of 5 in our series on music. Not exactly a musical series in terms of my voice, but hopefully you enjoyed it anyway. So far we've talked about where music came from and what happens in our brains when we hear it. We've talked about pop music. We've talked about its effects on plants and animals and your pets. And today we're going to talk about how people use music to better themselves. How you can take music and use it to your advantage. If music has all these involuntary effects on our brains, it changes how we look at the world around us and it affects everything that it touches, really. Have you ever thought about how you may put on music, or if you don't put on music when you need to study or read or do something active? Oftentimes, when you sit down to study, people will put on calming music, although some people will put on very active music. When you're sad, you might put on sad music, or you might try to cheer yourself up with happy music. The streaming service Spotify has literally hundreds of playlists just dedicated to people's moods, songs for blank. And they have things like Life Sucks, Rainy Days, Sunny Days. There's even a PMS playlist. It's actually not bad. Check it out. There are tons of studies on how music affects our behavior. One study, published in the Journal of Consumer Marketing, one of my favorite journals, actually. This thing is so great, chock full of really interesting stuff. They compared the effects of background versus foreground music on clothing store shoppers' shopping habits. In-store interviews showed that people liked the foreground music more music that was kind of in your face and out there, and it made the store have a really nice feel. But customers' moods and unplanned purchases, which is the reason they were doing the study, those weren't necessarily enhanced. So most of the time, when those things aren't affected, there's no reason to accommodate people's preferences, and they just play whatever they want. Certain stores, which are more interested in keeping you happy and making you feel cool about being in said store, probably play loud foreground music, whereas stores that are just interested in not being really, really quiet will play background music. But some things actually do affect customers' behaviors. For example, when there are long lines at a restaurant, they will sometimes use bright lights and fast tempo music to keep those tables turning over, keep people moving in and out. When demand for tables decreases, or at slower restaurants, they'll have dim lights and slow music, encouraging people to kind of relax, stick around, have the whiskeys. This is the second time I brought this up. It must be getting late in the day. In the end, music can affect a lot of our experiences in these commercial spaces, but it's not just in commercial spaces. It's not just when studying, and it's not just for growing plants, like we talked about earlier. A lot of people experience music while working out. It's a really important part of a lot of people's exercise routine. In 2007, the USA Track and Field Organization banned the use of headphones and portable audio players at its official races. And they did this to, quote, ensure safety and prevent runners from having a competitive edge, because they recognized that music is kind of helpful for people doing these competitive activities. It's pretty clear that we all know the benefit of music on workouts and on getting things done, but there are reasons for this as well. Dr. Kostas Karagios, the world-leading researcher on music for performance, has authored over 100 studies, and he says one can think of music as a type of legal performance-enhancing drug, and it kind of hits us 4 different ways. First and foremost is through disassociation. Disassociation refers to diverting the mind from sensations of fatigue that try and creep in during performance. So, for example, when you're running, you're going to get tired. But if you're listening to music, you may not notice that you're quite as tired. The research shows that music improves performance. It takes your mind off of feeling pain or feeling fatigue during activities like this. Sports scientists at Brunel University in the UK were able to demonstrate that music can actually reduce perceived effort by 12% and improve endurance by 15%, which is pretty incredible, actually. The second way it hits you is a flow state. Flow is an altered mental state. It's kind of like calling somebody in the zone. When you're in the zone or you have energized focus, that's called a flow state. It's a state of awareness or lack of awareness of other things during an activity. Many athletes use music to achieve a flow state and help improve their focus. There's also synchronized music movements. For third, if you're able to find a song that matches or slightly exceeds your goal pace while running or biking, it will help push you to keep going. I have used the Strokes in the past. I've been told that they have a really good and consistent BPM for exercise. Ethiopian distance runner Haile Gebrselassie is famous for setting world records running to Scatman, the pop song Scatman, which reminds me very much of college. He said he selected this song because the tempo matched his target stride rate. Very scientific of you. And then, of course, fourthly or lastly, music in general just enriches the enjoyment of an activity. Music, if you've taken anything away from this series, helps generate positive feelings. It correlates to our memories, and it helps kind of make us better. Music can crank internal motivations, it can trigger good emotions, and researchers believe that by listening to music, people can stick with an exercise program for longer periods of time. I don't know about you, but I listen to music when I work, when I really want to get into that flow state and just work really hard, because music helps drown out extraneous noises and things that might bother me. And we've really only scratched the surface of why that is in scientific study. It's very difficult because it's so individual. I have friends who do not listen to music at all. They don't own music. They don't have a single CD. They just don't. And then there are other people who curate their music libraries like crazy. And then there are people on the other extreme that own all the music. I had a roommate who had 100,000 songs in her iTunes. It just happens. Music is so individual, it's very difficult for a lot of scientists to break down all those variables and study them. And there's so much more that we could talk about when it comes to music. So if you have any ideas, things that we could talk about in a sequel to this music episode, make sure that you put them down in the comments and let us know. Music is part of human nature. It's existed for as long as we have. It motivates us. It inspires us. It can help us do better and be better, and it can do the same for our companions, like our plants and our animals. Let us know how you feel about the show here on YouTube. You can like this video, you can subscribe to the channel, and thanks so much for watching. You can also come find the show on Twitter. We are at TestTube. I'm at Trace Dominguez. And if you haven't already, let us know in the comments what your favorite song is, because maybe we'll make a playlist or something, put it on Spotify. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Trace. See you next time.